across the House and do the right thing. Thank you.
Martin Docherty Hughes.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I spent some time with my dad. My dad's about to enter his 90th year. But there were too many people across Clydebank, Dumbarton and Vale leaving who didn't get time to spend with their dad yesterday. And I'm sure there will be many people in this House who took that opportunity and who have constituents whose fathers aren't around because of COVID-19, whose mothers aren't around because of COVID-19, their brothers, their sisters. How many disabled people were locked in their homes because they listened to what the government had to say? My nephew, in a wheelchair in his own home, unable to go out because of COVID-19, and a British Prime Minister who told him what to do but who broke the rules himself. Yeah. My sister, a constituent, sitting in her own room, a kidney transplant patient, unable to go about the house with the rest of her family, just like other constituents across Clydebank, Dumbarton and the Vale of Leven. This is personal. It's personal for every constituent that I represent, and I'm sure it's personal for every other constituent that members in this House represent. But I'm afraid the House has to take a lesson. Because while I commend the report and all the members of the committee, and I commend the Chair and all the clerks who helped in it, it doesn't answer some fundamental questions that the House will need to consider in the long term. How is it possible that Boris Johnson walks out the door and earns millions within days, and all we can say to him, and I will quote from the report, in the view of the fact that Mr Johnson is no longer a member, we recommend that he should not be granted a former member's pass. How ridiculous we look, but yet the committee itself is hamstrung by the very regulations of this place. This report is not a panacea for democratic practice in the Houses of Commons for the British state. This is not an answer, but it does give evidence to the former member of Uxbridge who lied through their teeth, who partied on while our constituents were dying, and while working class communities the length and breadth of these islands, as I think the honourable member for Weavervale was talking about earlier, people driving ambulances, paramedics, orderlies in hospitals who couldn't get PPE, even though we see them being dumped in fields in the shires of England in the last couple of days. How ridiculous that communities like mine had to suffer the indignity of that buffoon sitting in Downing Street while our families were dying. How ridiculous. The report, well, it gives evidence, it takes the evidence. And do those members who were opposite who said they saw no evidence? Well, guess what? Here's the evidence. It's in the report. They might as well read it for a change. Now, there was also the COVID inquiry is ongoing, Mr Speaker. And let me quote the other... Yeah, I will give way to my honourable friend for Glasgow.
I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. And doesn't it make a bit of a mockery that one of the things that the report can recommend is that Boris Johnson does not have a former member's pass, but he still has the privilege of sitting as a member of the Privy Council and representing this country at the Cenotaph? Shouldn't we be looking at trying to strip him of these things as well?
I'll come on to honours in a minute, because I do believe, Mr Speaker, I may have a wee bit of time. Let's quote the other former Prime Minister, David Cameron, who at the COVID inquiry today said, "From my experience chairing Cobras, the system works, but the system works better when the Prime Minister is in the chair." The party opposite removed the Right Honourable Member for Maidenhead, who I have every confidence, while we may disagree, I have every confidence that the Right Honourable Member for Maidenhead would have been at every Cobra meeting during COVID-19, unlike the person they replaced her with. That's the ridiculous proposition that David Cameron came up to today. He agrees that that idiot, if that's not parliamentary, I'll retract it, but I think it is, that idiot missed 5 COVID-19 Cobra meetings. People were dying. It's the greatest tragedy since the Blitz, and he couldn't be bothered to turn up. My constituents turned up. They had to go to work. They drove ambulances. They were in working in porters and hospitals. And what do they get told? And I'll quote it again. that he gets his pass taken off him. Now, that actually sounds quite pathetic, but that's the limitations that we have been given to us in this report. It's the limitations placed on the Privileges Committee itself. Now, back in the 9th of December 2021, I then asked the Paymaster General, because we'd heard about parties in 2020, Mr Speaker. You might remember that, Christmas parties. Now, I asked the then Paymaster General in relation to those Christmas parties that if something looks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it's at a Christmas party, it's usually a duck. It seems the duck was also a liar, and that liar said that those parties never took place. Now, on the issue that my honourable friend for Glasgow East talks about in relation to the rights and privileges of the former member for Uxbridge now that they've left, don't give him a damn thing. Don't allow a single honour to go through that he has sought the monarch's approval for. Now, I'm no monarchist, but I do believe that the monarch has the ability, the head of state has the ability, or the advisers to the monarchy have the ability to say that an honour, the person is not befitting the honour. That whole goddamn list is not befitting any honour, Mr Speaker. Every single one of them should be withdrawn. But that then comes back to the whole crux about the limitations on the House. Because we're giving out honours left, right and centre to people who sit as legislators who broke the law. The report expunges them. They're lawbreakers, but we, through privilege, are allowing them to sit in the other place. We are forcing the head of state, the monarch, through same practice, to make sure that they go into there, to dictate law to us and our constituents. What a laughing stock, an absolute laughing stock. Now, just finally, Mr Speaker, there is this issue about those who see this as some kind of panacea that the House of Commons, this mother of parliaments, will move forward. Democracy is imperfect. And it was a member, I think, for Brighton Pavilion, who I believe was the first member to talk about the issue of truth in our politics and how far this goes back. Because this report, I'm afraid, will not answer why Boris Johnson came about. It won't answer the dark money that funded his campaign for Brexit. It won't answer the issues around Scottish limited partnerships, which so many members will know about, which funnels money that we have talked about consistently, which the government does nothing about, because that's why this report exists. We've allowed it to happen. I hope to God, Mr Speaker, and I'm a doubting Thomas when it comes to that, I'm an imperfect Christian, that members on all sides will go through the lobbies tonight to actually support the report with all its limitations. It doesn't answer the questions that my constituents want as to why Boris Johnson's not at that bar being held in contempt as a stranger. Now, some people may say that's a bit of an arcane process, but he was a Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The first time a Prime Minister has been held in contempt of the House. And this is all we have got to say to it. How ridiculous this place must seem to our constituents. How ridiculous to the people of Clydebank, Dumbarton and the Vale that this ex-Prime Minister swans off